Welcome to Vino with Vito. Let's not forget Nina.
Hi.
And today we have a special guest, Mr. Taormina, Nick Taormina. He's a home inspector, and he looks just like his brother, Dave. You sure you're not Dave?
Both by the same handsome cream, Vito.
Oh.
They sound exactly.
They sound exactly the same. Looks like him. You sure one day you don't do mortgages, the next day you do home inspections?
It's a thought, and I haven't done it yet, but we will.
You will do that. But the one good thing about Nick here, he actually bought wine. His brother Dave didn't bring any. So we're going to open up
Oh,
a
that's
nice bottle of wine. That Dave wouldn't bring any wine, but at least we got Nick to bring some wine. We're going to open up a nice
He
bottle of
listens.
wine today. By the way, this podcast is at night. It's not during the day, so we're not drinking during
Right.
the day.
Never.
Just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Okay? Now, I got a question, Nick.
Shoot.
How do you like being a home inspector? Do you get a lot of realtors yelling at you? Do you get attorneys getting upset with you? You know, what do you find the most thing that, gets you upset when people, call you on things?
All right. So being a home inspector is
my
actually
goodness.
a great job. It's a lot of independence. A lot of room for independent thought. I think the thing that gets me the most is actually not on the realtor, mortgage broker, attorney end. It's actually on the client end. I find people fail to read the report. Realtors, attorneys. I don't know how it was, 40 years ago, but realtors, and the attorneys, everybody wants that unbiased, honest assessment of a home. I'm sure, not speaking for you, but I guess I will. You don't want to sell a home that's completely deteriorated anyway, right? So I don't really run into problems like that with realtors. I know certain people think there's that stigma. Everybody's working in cahoots and in conjunction with each other, to kind of jam this sale down your throat.
Right.
And everybody's trying to pull a scam. And I'll tell you that at least on my end, I do not find that to be the case. In fact, sometimes I have realtors pointing out things that are of no consequence to a home inspection. What about that? We're seeing that that paint is peeling. What about that faucet? What about that toilet's a little loose? So the truth is, it's just the opposite. And I think it goes back to what I initially said, where, if you want to be a fly-by-night realtor, you could push that one scam through, and that's probably the last sale you're going to make. And if you're doing it professionally, I don't find that to ever really be a problem.
All right, I got one other thing. Salute before we get started here. Talking about where realtors point out things. I always do that. Like we're at a home inspection, and all of a sudden I see something. I'll just maybe opening a window or something. I see the lock is broken or whatever, and I'll come to the home inspector and point it out. It could be something small, it could be something big. I'm sure a lot of you catch. What I like about you, Nick, is you catch basically everything at a home inspection. Sometimes, we'll see different things where, hey, Nick, what do you think about this? And you'll be like, hey, it's not a big issue. It's not a problem.
Right. He does such a good job at explaining everything, but explaining what's important, what sounds like it's dire, but it really isn't. That's going to be maybe a $10 part at Home Depot. It sounds like, it's an easy fix. Don't go crazy, don't get worried, but when there is time to worry, he'll tell you.
He'll tell you about it, right? And that's what I like about Nick. I mean, I've had home inspectors where, and this is a true story. I pull up to the house, I look at the home inspector, and he was the type of home inspector that just made everything look bad. I actually walked up to him and said, "Hey, do me a favor, tell the person here, you're not buying this house," because that's all he did, and you'll save me 2 hours. Oh, stop. We walk into the house, we walk into the basement, he's like, "I smell termites." I'm like, come on, where the hell do you smell termites?
So, listen, it's like any other profession, anything in life really. Some people need to, I suppose, overstate their worth. Do you smell termites? There's a couple of beagles that can do it. As far as a human,
Or a Roscoe the dog that does bed bugs.
Exactly. You need to put things in perspective for clients. What's important, what's not important. You need to manage expectations, and really, it's about communication. What are they expecting? From a home inspection. What's included, what's not included. Again, being an alarmist, and making everything a tragedy, it doesn't really serve anybody well. It doesn't serve the client, doesn't serve you as a home inspector. Scaring the pants off somebody really does no good. Again, there's, are there times where you hit the panic button? Of course there are. But those are few in between.
Yeah, if you need to hit the panic button, you have to hit the panic.
Well, Vito, you remember the listing I had in East Hanover, and the home inspector said that the termites were throughout all the levels of the floor. They were going from the ground level
all the way
through
to
the attic. And everyone was flipping out. The termite guy came and said there's no termites at all in the house. There's a few by the shed, like outside.
All the way on the other side.
So
right.
you have to watch out how you put things. And listen, and the job involves a lot of risk. There's a lot of unknowns. Homes are, you're not watching a home be built from the foundation up. It's already there, it's already finished, it's already lived in. You have to resist the urge, to protect yourself to the point where you're saying, oh, there's termites everywhere, for example. There's nothing wrong sometimes with saying, well, I see some termites, it's beyond me. If I charge you for a termite inspection, maybe I should refund your money, and you can use that to bring in a licensed exterminator. It's probably the way to go, rather just, giving the house a scarlet letter and saying, yeah, you have termites everywhere. I mean, is it possible to have termites in the attic in northern New Jersey? Yeah, it's possible. They're called subterranean termites. An active infestation that's gone on for years and years and years, yeah, it's possible, but improbable. Because the homeowner, every spring there'd be millions of alates swarming, and they would have called an exterminator by then. So I think it's a poor practice. A lot of guys don't do it. Are there guys and girls that do it? Yeah. I think it stems from being unsure in your ability and also unwilling to take that risk. Listen, sometimes you make a bad call. Hey, house is free of termites.
Right.
6 months later, you get a call. Hey, there's termites.
Yeah,
well,
all of a sudden
And I
there's
think a lot of
termites.
times buyers feel like the sellers are hiding things from them. Like a lot of times they'll get the reports and they're like, well, they didn't put that in the seller's disclosure, but they don't know it. I said the first time you're getting a home inspection is when you're buying your house. Are you having a home inspection done, a thorough home inspection throughout the time you live there? No. The next time it's being done is when you go to sell it. So you could have a leak in the roof. If you don't go in the attic and search for dampness, you don't know what's there. So you say that there's no leak. So a lot of times I think people think they're trying to get one up on the buyers, but it's not true.
It's true. And sometimes the homeowners are actually, listen, are there homeowners out there that are, actively trying to cover things up? Of course there are. But sometimes the homeowners are actually the victim of a scam. And let me tell you a quick story.
Sure,
I did a
that's
house
what we're here for.
house in Nutley last week. And had fireplaces, and it was an old house, and fireplaces, just looking at them didn't have the required firebox depth. So I do chimney inspections. I just didn't have the time. It wasn't booked with the inspection. I didn't have time to do it, so I recommended a pretty reputable company to go and do it. So, as we suspected, the fireplace was toasted. It just couldn't be used. But when they did the mechanical chimney, the heat and hot water, they were newer systems, I want to say 3 years old. And when they put the camera up there, based on the size of both units, it should have been about a 9-inch liner. But the chimney was too small, so they jammed about a foot of 8-inch liner. Then the chimney was unlined. And then at the top, so when you're looking at the roof, another piece of 8-inch liner.
Wow.
And that homeowner paid $1,000. He was shocked, So
Right.
my first, my client called me back. Oh my God, it's in terrible condition. This and that. This is what they found. And I kind of made it clear to him. I said, it needs to be fixed, obviously, but this homeowner or this seller is actually a victim, right? He tried to do the right thing. He hired a licensed HVAC contract to do this. I mean, you're not on top of these people while they're doing the work, right? And from the looks, just based without an invasive look with the camera, it looked good.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was garbage.
Yeah.
Not his fault, right?
Right. But
So-
meanwhile, somebody else would have thought, hey, the homeowner did that
Right.
purposely.
Not
And,
everybody's out
Right,
to
to
scam.
get
exactly.
away with all that money.
Yeah.
Now, the other big thing is today with home inspections, a lot of people are afraid of mold.
Right.
And, mold can grow rapidly, mold can be almost everywhere. What is your take on mold? And I'll tell you, hold on, before you answer that, I had another home inspector years ago, same house as the termites, walks in the basement and starts saying, wow, there's mold everywhere without even testing it.
Right.
And the buyer got so scared, termites, now there's mold, and he's going on, and he goes, so the buyer's like, what would I do to get rid of mold? I'm worried, breathing and everything. The home inspector came out, oh, just call me, here's my card, I remediate mold.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's talking about, home inspectors and scam. I mean, come on. Why would you tell the guy there's mold because you want to remediate it yourself?
So it's true. So I'll start by saying that mold and the detection of mold is actually specifically carved out of the home inspection standards of practice by the state. Some guys do test for mold. I happen to be one of those guys. Mold is the big boogeyman these days anyway. It used to be asbestos, now it's mold. Every house has mold, guys. There's some somewhere, right? If you look hard enough, mold chases water, right? So more important than the mold is what's wet. Everyone talks about black mold, right? Mm-hmm. Black mold is a very specific type of mold. Just because your mold is black in color doesn't mean it's the pathogenic black mold, right? So
black mold smells, right? Doesn't it
well,
stink?
mold smells a little bit. It has that musty smell. Unless you have a massive mold amplification problem, most mold is fairly easy, to remediate. You clean up, you fix what's wet. Either you clean up or cut out what's moldy, and you're good. That's, you bring in, and of course, like everything else, right? If you bring in a mold remediation company, their business is to remediate mold. Oh my God, air scrubbers, clean the ducts, and sometimes those are the appropriate remedies, right? But if you're talking about, let's say, for example, HUD standards, right? Or when you're doing what's called either a REACT inspection for subsidized housing, you don't even mark it as a defect unless it's bigger than a sheet of paper. On a home inspection, again, my concern with mold, whether it's present or not, is not so much I don't want to say not so much. I mean, if you have a whole wall full of mold, then there's an issue. But if there's a little mold under a sink, that's easy to clean. My bigger concern is, why is it wet, right? Is it a pipe leaking? Is it groundwater coming up? But again, the industry's done a great job of scaring the pants off people. I get calls all the time. I want a mold test. I want a mold air test. And I always start by saying there's going to be mold, or at least mold spores in the house, right? They're outside. You open the window, you open the door. How can they not be inside, right? But a mold spore is harmless until it catches what it needs: food and water to germinate. So it's kind of a fine line. People are really afraid of it, and you have to, I suppose, explaining to them properly how to get rid of it. The EPA doesn't recommend bleach. I always say spray bleach. Nothing kills mold like bleach.
Yeah.
But Fee, just like you were saying, how the guy recommend, so
a
don't
mold
you think
guy,
it's
too.
good when they have inspectors come, like septic inspectors? They come, they're just inspectors.
Inspectors for
They
septic.
don't fix anything,
Right.
so they don't have like an ulterior motive. They're gonna tell you what's wrong, and then you're gonna go somewhere else to get it fixed.
Right, but you also have like septic inspectors, right? I just ran into this. Guy had we had a septic inspection done prior to selling the house. Everything came out pretty much satisfactory. The buyer had a septic guy come out, and all of a sudden there were issues with the septic tank. And the guy that did that inspection already gave him an estimate to fix it.
Right.
So it's like, wait a minute here. If you're testing it and checking it out, why would you give him an estimate to fix it? That means it's probably not wrong, but you want to charge him already to fix the damn thing. You shouldn't be able, like you said, Nina, you shouldn't be able to do the inspection and fix it. you should have somebody else to
Well,
do
it
that.
comes down to ethics and conflict of interest, right?
Right.
As home
Just like when I was
inspectors,
delivering newspapers, conflict of interest. You're right.
as home inspectors, we're actually not allowed to work on any property we inspect for 12 months, and that's a good thing. There are, carve outs to this. On separate licenses, I'm a separately licensed exterminator, so I could do your termite job. I'm a separately certified.
I didn't, Nick. Yeah,
Really?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Oh, you can do termite?
100%. Yeah.
Look how modest he is.
Look
We
at
never even knew.
Remember that.
Well,
Right about
because you know what, most of the times it'll never come to pass because again, the state forbids certain things. But normally when I inspect, I don't care what's wrong with your house. I find it unethical to say, oh, you know what? By the way, your pipes are leaking. Here, give me a call. I'm a plumber. Or hey, you have termites. Give me.
But now I am going to put you in as a termite contact because the only one I have is Frankie Termites that Vito gave me.
Frankie termite.
Yeah, no, I will do a termite job as long as I'm not the guy who inspected it.
Right.
Like I said, I have the ability to. The state will allow me to, but again, it comes down to ethics.
Right, because then they'll say, hey, there's really no termites, but now you want me to.
Especially when as a homeowner, buyer, or seller. When you don't know what you're looking for. Termites are sometimes unless you have mud tubes everywhere, they're hard to find, right? And a lot of times when you find the damage, there's no live termites in there, right? Remember, they're subterranean, so they're always kind of going back underground.
Right.
So it's always good to have that unbiased inspection, especially when it comes to septic tanks. Circling back to septic tanks. I mean, really, we're a sewer kind of place up here in northern New Jersey, right? So, septic tanks are a special animal. It's always good, to use a company that has no skin in that game. You know what? If it's good, it's good, right? There's nothing wrong with having nothing wrong. If it's a dog, here's what's wrong with it, find somebody to fix it. I think you can never go wrong with that philosophy.
Yeah. Now, doing home inspections, what was kind of like the worst thing that you found or saw in the house?
Most homes have the same problems over and over again. It's kind of like, what's that movie, Groundhog's Day, right? Foundations are leaky. There's electrical issues. Always a lot of electrical issues in homes, especially when you have that avid DIY. What's that show on the HGTV TV channel? Doing their own work. But I mean, other than that, expensive things. Foundation issues are expensive. A couple of leaky oil tanks. Leaky oil tanks can the cost can run away from you from time to time.
No, we were looking for like torture rooms and bodies. No.
No.
Any animals? You find any animals in a house?
A couple of dead animals here and there, but it's nothing.
In the attic, anything good?
Yeah, a couple of dead animals and Havahart. Certain agents leave Havahart traps to catch squirrels and then forget to get them.
He's bringing up the squirrel thing again. Because I'm afraid of squirrels too. Yeah. Speaking about squirrels, right? I remember I was living in my house in Fairfield, and I'm hearing like scratching noises in the attic, right? And I'm like, what the heck, right? My neighbor outside goes to me, he goes, hey, Vito. He goes, I see squirrels going into your attic. I'm like, really? So he shows me from outside, where you have the opening, the vent.
Right.
Sure enough.
Were they squeezing in?
Squirrels were squeezing into the attic, right? So I'm like, what am I going to do now to get rid of these squirrels? Meanwhile, again, I'm afraid of squirrels.
Why are you afraid of squirrels?
It's like an odd animal to be afraid of.
Last episode, you would know why I'm afraid of squirrels, but we got to watch another next episode, the last episode. But there's squirrels going in there, so I called my cousin. I said, hey, we're speaking about the Havaharts, we got to bring, a trap up there. So he goes into the attic, he brings the trap, right? A day goes by, 2 days go by, nothing, right? I keep peeking. Third day, sure enough, squirrel is caught. My cousin comes back, he takes the squirrel out. Meanwhile, we put wire mesh and everything not to get a squirrel back in, right? So we get rid of the squirrel, let him go. The next day, I'm going to work, right? It's maybe 2 days later, I'm going to work. And I had these double doors in front of my house with the big windows, right? And I would always leave from the garage. So I leave from the garage. My wife calls me. She goes, you're not going to believe this. I go, not going to believe what? She goes, a squirrel's trying to come through the front door. The squirrel was actually taking a jump start, headed towards the house and like trying to bang through the front door. I'm saying to myself, what the hell? Maybe there was
He liked it in there.
Probably had his babies
Probably
up.
probably had
super
babies
sod.
or something up there.
Or he liked the super sod
The super
hanging
sod
from
hanging or
from the
whatever.
ceiling.
But the reason with the squirrels, I'm afraid of squirrels. A squirrel, when I lived in Patterson, got into my basement and went into the utility room. My dad's like, go grab something, go grab something. I tried to go grab something, leaving the basement. I go up and I cracked my head, bleeding like crazy, ended up with stitches. Every time I see a squirrel now, my head tingles.
Really?
Because I remember about the squirrel. I walk in the park, squirrels are coming after me. You know,
They're not coming
afraid
after
of me.
you.
Yeah, but they're not afraid. They want to jump on me or something. Somebody's
They're
feeding
not
these squirrels
pigeons.
peanuts. No, but they're looking at you and they're like, and another time with
I think you need some therapy.
no,
Exactly.
no. Another time with a squirrel, my parents had gone to Italy, and I was going back to Italy to my brothers get married. And I was going to eat by my aunt's house. I lived in Patterson. My aunt and uncle lived in Fairfield.
She served you squirrel?
No, no squirrel. So now I got to go there for dinner, and I think I had to be there at 5:30 or whatever. I get home. What's on the front stoop by the front door? A squirrel.
Oh, I would have never guessed.
That son of a gun. He's going like this. He's eating a nut and he's looking at me. Eating a nut, looking at me. My head's tingling. I'm trying to throw stuff at him.
Head's tingling.
Son of a gun wouldn't leave. I ended up being late for dinner because of that damn squirrel.
Why don't you just kick him?
Again, I'm afraid of squirrels since he went there, and it busted my head a little bit. But
Now, Nick, how annoying are extra guests at inspections?
So, I'll tell you, I don't personally mind extra guests as long as they're there. I guess under the joyous occasion of seeing the home that their loved one is buying. I do have a couple of I guess pet peeves. The first one is when you bring every relative you have. You know, you walk in the house with 17 people, you know, there's no room for me to inspect. You know, you go in the kitchen, everyone's in the kitchen, and, you know, it's like you're having a Christmas party. You know, I got to get in the sink, I got to turn on appliances. So usually, you know, when you tell them to kind of step away, they do. But I guess my biggest problem with extra guests is, you know, and it's usually, you know, if it's a husband and wife buying it, it's usually the wife's father. You know, they become active obstructionists, you know, pointing out literally everything. And, you know, I suppose if you don't want your daughter or your son, for that matter, to buy the house, then you should have just said so before we've gotten to this point. You know, when you're really pointing out things that are so minor and so inconsequential, I guess, to the building itself, you know, it damages, I guess, the inspection. You know, as a client, you end up with a substandard inspection. You know, if I have, you know, a father just firing, and again, I'm not opposed to questions, but if you are firing off questions one after the other for 2 or 3 hours, you're going to throw me off my game.
Right.
You know, when
You
you're
did that when we had an inspection. I don't even know if you remember. It was probably 2 years ago. And you finally had to say, okay, please stop asking. Please
Right.
stop asking me, because she was actually a mother-in-law. She was right by your side, pointing things out before you could even turn around and look at them. And you were like, I am going to answer all of your questions at the end.
Exactly. And you know, the other thing I tell these clients, you know, look, I'm a small business like everybody else. If you're hiring me, you're the boss. So if I'm in the basement and you're tooling around the attic and you call me up to the attic, hey man, again, you're the boss. I'm going to the attic and answering your questions. And then I'm going to think, where was I? Oh yeah, I was in the kitchen.
Right.
You know, and then I forget all about the basement, and you really end up with a substandard inspection, in my opinion. You know, obviously, I don't intentionally give you a substandard inspection, but there's possibilities that things are going to be missed. And if you are really needling me, it's going to make the report. You know, basically saying, hey, listen, you know what, the inspection could not, you know, cohesively have been conducted because, you know, I was constantly being interrupted.
Right. We had that inspection, I think, on Monday in that townhouse,
Yeah.
where the young lady came in and said, you know what, let me know if you need me. you did your whole inspection. I left you alone.
Right.
She left you alone. You did your entire inspection. And when you were done, you did the right thing. You said, here, how's everything? This is what I found. I found 7 different items of concern.
Right.
And then you walked her through those 7 different items of concern.
Right, so when they get the
Actually,
report,
right, they know.
they don't panic.
Right.
So
Correct.
they see all those things and they're like, oh, that's
Right.
right, he mentioned this.
Exactly. It's not because I don't want to talk to you.
No,
It's
no,
because
I know.
I want
Right,
to
you wanna
concentrate on
concentrate.
your
And do
job.
the right, and get your report the way it should be.
Exactly. And, I'm never in a rush. Listen, sit down, play with your phone, do whatever you have to do. When this is done, I'm not jumping in my truck and running at it. Listen, we go to lunch and talk about this thing if that's what you want to do. I have no problem with you.
Today was a perfect example.
Yeah, you guys
thought
were
it would be an hour. It was like
you're
2
like over
hours
2 hours
and 20
Yeah.
minutes.
to do a home
Well, exactly.
inspection. Right.
Some keep saying, "I want to go into the attic. I want to go into the attic." And that sort of thing. And even if you don't immediately go to the attic, you still have to stop and say, "Listen, we're on the first floor right now. Attic is above the second floor, and we will definitely get there." Again. Some people don't do it, on purpose. I think it's just, maybe their personalities. But I like to say, you bring your car for a tune-up. Mechanics over the hood. You're not on their shoulders, right?
Right.
Well,
that's
you
a
should-
good-
yeah,
I like that
You shouldn't be
analogy.
on my shoulders
Yeah.
either. And same this, I hire a guy to do work or a girl to do work at my house. You know what? They
When
bid
you're
the
done,
job.
come and call me.
Yeah, I'll be upstairs watch TV, man. You need anything? Start yell for me. But
Yeah.
why? Sometimes it's counterintuitive if you think about it. Why would you hire a professional to do something, and then immediately attempt to micromanage that person? It makes no sense.
Right.
Otherwise, do it yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Why not do it yourself?
It's like a homeowner saying, why do I need a realtor? Let me do it myself. And then all of a sudden they're calling you and asking for advice. Hey,
I don't want to use you,
and then at the end they realize, hey, I need a realtor and I need them desperately because I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Sometimes it's that mentality. In my opinion, it's a product of Google. Right? They don't see value in what you do, and it's funny you mention that because I obviously I do inspections for sale by owners, and then I have a client call me constantly. Well, what's my next step? I'm like, that's why you need a realtor. So because the truth of the
Right.
matter is, I think I know what your next step is, but I'm not 100% sure.
Sure,
I just
right.
know that this needs to be fixed in your house, right? So they don't see value in what you do sometimes. Most people see the value, but some people think they could do it themselves. It's like I said. It's going to a doctor and saying your arm is broken and insisting that it's not your arm, it's your leg. It makes no sense.
Right,
Sometimes it's I think spawn out of a little bit of arrogance.
Yeah, I've had actually customers call me, after the sale was done and everything, and actually kept saying, thank you so much. I couldn't have done it without you. You kept everything in control from home inspection issues, from appraisals, from, everything. I had one where the house didn't appraise. And everybody's getting nervous now. Hey, the house didn't appraise. And I looked at everything, looked at the comps, and I said, you know what? This house should have appraised and should have appraised for more. And I had attorneys telling me, hey, you're never going to win that. You're not going to fight it. And actually, one of your brother's deals was like that.
Yeah.
And I call up the appraiser. Sure enough, the guy didn't even want to talk to me.
Well, they're
And
very hard to
Right.
hard to fight.
And,
appraisals.
and you know what? I answered the appraiser and I said, look, when you have an issue with an appraiser, this was somebody I knew, would call me and ask me questions about, being in the town and ask me questions. Hey, you about this house, that house. I go, when you have an issue, you can talk to me. Now I have an issue, I can't talk to you. I went above his head, and guess what? The house appraised. It appraised for more than what it was selling for because I was able to fight it. I knew the comps, and you know what? This guy must have been slacking off or whatever, and we got it done.
And a lot of times, even with inspection things, like things come up, if the other agent can just talk to you and answer
Yeah.
their phone, if you
Yeah.
guys can communicate and everyone's on the same page, we all want what's best for both of our clients, whether it's
Right.
the seller or the buyer. But if you work together, because a lot of times you call and they'll say, let the attorneys figure out, let the
Mhm.
attorneys figure out, let the attorneys figure out. And they
Sometimes-
don't.
Right, sometimes.
A lot of
that-
times the attorneys don't even communicate what
right.
the issue is with their clients,
Right.
and they just assume what they would want to answer
That's
with,
right.
and they answer it, and it's not true. And then it causes so many issues. So all you need is an agent that will pick up their
Right,
phone,
that's
communicate,
what we're-
and
that's why we're here.
Well, that's the value
middleman.
that I'm talking
Right.
about. You know,
It
that's what
happened.
people don't. That's what people don't understand. You know, as far as, you know, again, looking at houses, you go to Realtor.com and see what's on the MLS.
Right.
That's not the value.
Right.
The value is in the quarterbacking of the deal. Whether it's calling that attorney, calling that appraiser, calling that home inspector, and saying, "Hey, listen, you know what's this? What's going on with this?" That's the value that people fail to see, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
You know, it's a quarterbacking or the conductor of this opera of the million moving parts that go into buying or selling a house.
Right.
Right. I had a listing, and so I represented the seller, but I had the buyer constantly calling me because he didn't know what was going on. His attorney wasn't giving him any information. He was answering things that he didn't want to answer the way he answered. His agent wasn't giving him any information. I mean, I can't really
Right. You're not
talk to him.
right.
But I
talk to
felt
him,
so
but-
bad for, I would tell him what, was
What
known
you knew.
information and
Yeah.
whatever I knew, but the deal would have been dead had the attorney just done whatever he wanted, and the buyer would have been like, "Oh my God, forget it," and that would have been it.
That would have been it. Speaking about before, like you were saying, when the person brings their dad to a home inspection and everybody else, and the father doesn't want them to buy the house, and showing the value of us as realtors, as agents. I had a young couple one time, I'll never forget. We're in the house, we're going through the house, I'm showing them the house, and the couple's like, I love it, Dad, Vito, I love this house, Dad, what do you think, You know what the father's answer was? Ask Vito.
Yeah.
See?
But what was great about it was, they asked me, and I basically told
Ask
them,
your dad.
no, I didn't say ask your dad. I said, you know what? This house I don't think is for you because of this, and
But
this.
people want to hear that.
They want to hear, and they're like, "Whoa, we had our hopes up. I thought this was the house for us, this and that." And I go, "Trust me, this is not the house for you." The dad looked at me and he said, "You know what, Vito? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know what? They heard it from you, not from me. At least they respected your answer,
Right.
and they're not buying this house." And you know what? These people ended up buying a house, ended up selling the house, buying another house from me, gave me a bunch
Yeah, because
of
they
relatives.
trust you. They know that
and-
you're
and
not
everything.
just trying to.
Right, you're not trying to.
I had the same situation. They were trying to buy a house it was Lake Hapakong. And they called me and they're like, "Could you please do us a favor?" They were 2 open houses, Saturday and Sunday. They went Saturday. I couldn't make it with them on Sunday, but I went after my appointments, drove there, looked at the house. Afterwards, they're like, "What did you think?" I'm like, honestly, it's listed for $100,000 more than it should be.
Right.
It's just shy of 1,000 square feet. There's no room to grow in this house. It's newly renovated, which is, you see the shiny
Right,
things.
everybody sees that.
Everyone see, the shiny things, but there's no house in that area that sold anywhere near that. You're never going to make your money back. And she's like, "You know what? Thank you so much. We were kind of thinking the same thing, but we weren't sure. We just saw
wanted your
everything was
opinion."
new and we
Right,
loved
right.
it." And
But that's what we're here for, Nina, and that's what, why we're good at it, because again, we're giving an honest opinion, and we're telling everybody hey, if it was for my kid or for
Right.
my brother or somebody, I'd tell them the same thing I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And that's the way to do it.
It's a great point. I've had numerous inspections when I walk in. The first thing I hear from the agent is, "I told him not to put a bid on his house. It's a dog." And at the end, there's a million things wrong normally. I'm like, well, the agent said we probably really shouldn't have bought this house. It seems like it's in bad condition. And my response is always, first of all, I shouldn't even be here at this point, right? Think about this. They make money by selling you a home.
House, right.
They're telling you not to buy. I said, that's the only person you really should be listening to.
Yeah.
When the person who stands to gain a commission is telling you don't do this,
Don't do it.
I said, I really shouldn't even be here. We shouldn't even gotten
And
this
even
far.
like right now with the way the market is, everyone's limiting inspections and waiving inspections.
Inspections. I had one yesterday where we lost out because someone waived the inspection, and we wouldn't do it. I said,
Always a
"No,
mistake."
No way you're waiving that inspection. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
because you know what? If there's something structurally wrong with it, And the realtor actually called me and goes, you know what, we're thinking, you know, your offer is, but can you waive the inspection? I said, absolutely not. I'll limit it to structural, environmental, safety, but well, come on. I go, if it was your kid, would you waive it? She goes, absolutely not. I said, so why are you asking me that?
Yeah.
Nick, the one we did today wanted to waive the inspection, and I said no.
It's a mistake. I mean, listen, you could
There were things
waive what's
There were
wrong.
things that came up that were important things, and I was like,
Right.
don't do that.
You know, would you buy a new car, if I was selling it to you and said, you could buy this car, but you can't start it to get in it until you own it? It makes no sense. I mean, you could waive, say, listen, I'm not fixing anything. And if that's a deal you make, then that's fair, right? We're in an
Right,
understanding.
we're not fixing it,
but
I
you
wanna
should know what
what's
you're
wrong.
getting into.
Right.
You know,
all of a sudden, you know, you got a laundry list of items,
Right.
and you're saying to yourself, that laundry list now, I was thinking maybe 3,000 is now 25,000.
You want
Guess
death
what?
by 1,000
But there
cuts,
are people
right?
that say they're waiving the inspection, but they're doing it a full inspection for informational purposes
Purposes
only. But
only.
then things come up.
Right.
What are you gonna do when major things come up?
Absolutely. Like I
Yeah.
said, wouldn't buy a car without being able to start it.
Right.
Well, why would you buy a house without being able to inspect
Right,
it?
or those termites are up into the attic already, hanging out with the squirrels.
That's right, exactly.
You don't want. You
Or
don't want
conspiring against you,
that.
you know?
Yeah, they're talking to each other. Oh, Vito's coming back out. You know.
We see the fear in his
I
eyes.
see the fear in his eye. Let me eat another nut before I go down.
Chuck an acorn at him when he's walking in and see what happens.
Now, Nick, before you did home inspections, what did you do prior to that?
You know, before home inspections, my full-time job was with the New York City Police Department. Spent
Whoa.
I didn't know that until your brother told me that.
Yeah, you know,
Maybe like
you don't
2 or 3
advertise it.
weeks
It's
ago.
not a cop-friendly environment. But yeah, 23
It
years.
is here,
It-
right? It's a
oh,
cop friendly
absolutely.
environment.
I love cops.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
They do
They have a gun.
they do a tough job, that's for sure. But yeah, 23 years in New York City Police Department.
New York City. Oh, boy.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
part of New York City?
All over. As a patrolman, I was in Brooklyn, Bushwick, Brooklyn. You know,
So not much different than my husband who's in Florham Park.
yeah,
Seems
a
so.
little
No,
bit.
just
Kinda
kidding.
You know what? Listen, the dangers
He's
out
like,
there.
I was 8 hours late coming home. You weren't worried? I'm like, you're in Florham Park.
You're
We're
from-
fine.
The danger
I'm
always
sleeping
exists.
soundly. We're good.
Parking ticket.
Nah, you know what? Listen,
No, it's dangerous.
sometimes
No, I know. I'm just
sometimes these smaller. First of all, Florham Park's a great town, but you're not too
Just
far
Route
from.
24.
Yeah.
Route 24.
And-
a lot of things happen on Route 24.
The nicer the town, sometimes the more complacent you get. You think, hey, it's just a routine call, and that's where you get hurt. That's really where you get hurt. Backups. You're screaming for help, and backups 10 minutes away. City's a great place. I scream for help. 10 seconds, there's 10 guys standing on your neck. So it's obviously there's more volume, and the more time you expose yourself to something, it increases the likelihood of something bad happening. But it's dangerous all over. This is a tough job, especially in today's environment. I'm glad I'm out.
Oh, now you're talking what? 80s, 90s?
90s. Yeah, early 90s.
Did you like it though?
I did. It was a great job. Listen, not to spin off, but it was a great job, and I equate it to teaching sometimes. If you talk to teachers, they always say, you have a class of 25 kids, and you're always teaching to 1 or 2 people, right? Delinquents, dummies, whatever. You're always teaching to those people. Same thing with policing. I don't care what neighborhood you're in. You can be in a high crime neighborhood. Most people are good people. They want to go to work. They want to be left alone.
Right.
You know what? You are policing 10 idiots in any particular precinct that are doing all the burglaries or doing all the grand larcenies or the robberies. So it's difficult to paint everybody with a broad brush. Some people live in that neighborhood because that's where they've always lived.
Yeah.
Some people live in that neighborhood because that's all they can afford. That's all
Yeah.
they can. The only place they can live. Do they want something better? Yeah, but they can't. But they still good people. I always laugh.
Yeah, they work hard. They're
yeah.
good people. They
So,
just
in Bushwick, Brooklyn used to be a horror show. And now apparently it's a place to be.
Yeah.
Million
That's
dollar
where
$1 million homes. I
that's
can't
where
understand.
everybody wants to go.
I can't understand it. But I remember I was chasing a guy many years ago. I think it was '93, and short and slow. What am I going to do? And I lost them.
You're a little taller than your brother.
Just a little bit. Well, I'm wearing heels. So I
That's another podcast.
you know, I was surprised when I lost sight of who I was chasing, and there was like 6 old guys on a corner. I looked at them, and they all went like this.
Oh, that's so funny.
I'm like, hey man, you know what? They want me to get this guy, right? They don't, because think about it, they don't want this guy in their neighborhood anyway.
Right. They
right?
know you're chasing him for a reason, so.
So it was a pretty, I guess, awakening type of.
So how'd you get into the home inspection business?
So I've actually been inspecting homes and buildings on and off since 1999, actually. So I started exterminating. It's a whole story. I can't really go into it. But there was a little bit of unpleasantness in the police department right around somewhere 99, 2000. And, you know, I thought my policing career was coming to a rapid end. No corruption or taking money. But, you know what, there was, you know, an arrest and, you know, it didn't look good for a little while, even though we didn't do nothing wrong. But
Yeah,
I was like, hey, it was a great gig while it lasted. Now let me
Right.
find something else to do.
But back in the 90s, you know, when you were a cop in New York City, I had another job where I serviced home centers, drugstores, and everything, always traveling. My territory was Long Island. And I used to drive through the Cross Bronx every morning to go to Long Island.
Terrible.
The George Washington Bridge toll, I think it was like $2. The Trogs Neck Bridge was $1.50.
Throw a token in there.
Yeah. So round trip was like $5. But how bad it was back in the 90s, I mean, you're driving through the Cross Bronx, Nina, right? And I used to see somebody get stuck with their car, and they just like pushing it onto the side. And I see them start walking away, and I'm like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. When you come back, that car is not going to be.
It's up on blocks.
It's up on blocks and everything. Sure enough, I come back that night. I look, the car's got no engine, no doors, no tires. My brother one time, we're on the Cross Bronx, he's driving, and gets a flat tire. Pulls over, take a jack out, start jacking up the front, right? We're going to change the tire. All of a sudden, I turn around. Guy's jacking up the back. We're going, what are you doing? He goes, don't worry about it, my friend. Don't worry about it. You take the front, we'll take the back. I go, you take the front, we take the back. I go, it's my car. I got a flat tire. He goes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And they get back in their car and they leave. But this is what it was like back in the 90s in New York City.
Listen, no, they were
One of the
professionals.
funniest stories you ever told.
They were
That was really funny.
professionals, you know?
They would be able to strip that car to nothing with a needle nose
With
plier.
Yeah, I'm telling you. But it was funny. You take the front, we'll take the back. But it's my car. I got a flat tire. Are you kidding me?
It's it changed. It's it made the city made great strides. I mean, that's for sure. It's reverting back. It's on a backslide a little bit, but I think I think it'll turn itself around again. You know, it's a great city, great people.
It's one thing I always wanted to learn: how to change a tire.
You don't know how to change a tire?
Nope. I don't know how to. 3 things when I got engaged. 3 things many years ago. Shoot a
I
gun.
thought you just got engaged not too long ago. Go ahead.
Well, that's different. We can't talk about that on air. Shoot a gun, learn how to ice skate, and learn how to change a tire. Can I do any of those things? No. That's all I asked for. That's all I asked for.
You
Not
never
much.
shot a gun?
No.
Go to the
never
range.
changed
There's a
the
bunch of
tire?
ranges. Total, Wayne. You can rent a
Your
gun and
husband's
shoot.
got a gun.
That's what I'm saying.
his gun.
I
That's
said,
right.
and he was a good. He used to play hockey and stuff. So I just wanted to learn how to ice skate, shoot a gun, and change a tire.
Your husband probably said, you know what, I'm not teaching her
Right.
to shoot a gun. I might come home one day and I'm not around no more.
You know, ice skating and a gun. I'm just still floored that you can't change a tire.
I know.
I mean, how can you not change a tire?
Thank you.
The problem is right now, everybody gets on their phone, AAA,
Yeah.
call somebody, and they come and change your tire. But, you know, if that ever happens to you again, you can call me. If I'm around, I'll come change the tire.
Thank you.
But just don't go out there or let a stranger come and... all of a sudden-
Well, you know me. What would I say? What would I say if someone did that?
Oh, you want to come over for dinner
Yeah,
afterwards?
thank you. Oh my God, thank you so much. Okay, you know what do I owe you? Well, come on, I'll take you out for a drink, dinner. Here's my home address. That's what I would say. Here's my home address.
Sounds like a bad idea.
It does, right? But that's how she
No, but that's
is,
how I
you
am.
know? But,
A little naive.
but make sure you never get a flat tire and you don't have to worry about changing.
But you
I
love
just get
roadside,
bubbles
right?
in my tire from hitting curbs.
Hitting curbs.
They don't actually go flat on the scene, but the
Right.
pressure starts
Just usually when you're on a highway, explosive.
decrease.
Thank God they have those monitors.
I know, that's how I
But-
knew last
so-
time. I'm
so
like,
you
why is
know.
the pressure going down? Like, oh, look at that. Little
Everybody
bubble.
else will keep driving a car. And
Yeah.
what's that noise?
That's right. Rim sparking.
Yeah. I see sparks coming out the back, but I don't know what's wrong. But Nick, I really want to thank you, for coming and
my pleasure.
Being here.
And for being the best home inspector
Nick,
ever.
I gotta admit,
He's the best.
I use Nick all the time,
All the time.
and
He's
Nick,
the only person I ever recommend.
I appreciate it, guys, that's for
because
sure.
The reason we do that, Nick, is because again, you're not scaring anybody. You're telling the truth. You're not afraid of realtors or attorneys.
But and when you're
telling
on the
you-
other side,
Right,
when
what-
you don't have the choice, or your clients
Right.
aren't asking you to recommend someone,
Right.
and there's somebody else,
Else.
and you see when they come in.
Right, and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had some. I had the sellers and the buyers who were doing a home inspection, and they're like, okay, I get an email. There's a home inspection Monday, and it comes from your office. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't need to be there. I know it's going to get done
And
right.
people remember you. Like, we did a home inspection in Denville. The listing agent's like, oh, I remember you from Clifton from last year. You
Yeah.
did such an amazing job, this
Right.
and that.
You know what? It comes down. I think the police department actually really prepared me. First of all, I like to talk. What can I tell you? I like to talk. I like to explain things, and really, everything can be solved. Nothing. Almost nothing is insurmountable, right? Again, like I said today, something very dangerous can cost you $10.
Right.
I still want to let you know it's dangerous, right? And
Absolutely.
you put it in perspective. There's really no sense in scaring the pants off people. What's the point? What's the point? You scare them, and not only that, but if some people again want to give you something in a terrible light to make themselves look smarter, but you'll be found out, right? Oh, this is so dangerous, and you bring in an electrician. He's like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with this thing.
Yeah.
Or,
Right, but that's
or
why it's
turns
so
a screw in.
important to go over everything
Yeah.
that's going to be in the report. Here are the major things. Here's maintenance things.
Yeah.
Not anything, just over time, just make sure you check it out or whatever.
It's good to
because
prepare
when you
and
get that
educate people.
report, especially a first-time home buyer, you get that
Oh, yeah.
report and you don't even know what to do with
What
it. You
to
don't know
do
where to
with it,
start.
yeah.
Everything sounds bad,
Yeah.
but it's really not.
And your report is broken down in a way,
Pictures and-
right,
Yeah.
where you can see it.
You-
Like
you-
repairs needed, safety issues,
Right.
maintenance.
You try to give them a good grasp of the inspection of the systems of the house and again, a good understanding of what really needs to be done, what you can hold off on. And listen, just because it makes officially I have to tell you everything has to be fixed, right? That's what my professional liability carrier requires. But there's things that make the report that you never have to fix, right?
Right.
I mean, and
Right.
that's just the way it is. Walk around any of our houses and that should be
You're gonna find
done.
something.
That's wrong.
Oh yeah, there's
You know,
so many outlets that don't work in my house.
Exactly. So, putting things in perspective for people, I think is actually a really important part
Yeah.
of this job.
Sure,
You
you
know,
do that well too.
Appreciate
you
it.
do it well.
Thank
You
you.
do it very well.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank
and
you.
thank you for coming.
Thanks for
and-
having me.
Absolutely, and thank you for bringing the wine. At least you're not like your brother. So I really
Don't show him that bottle, though. I think he gave it to me
I
once.
really appreciate it. And on that note, thank you guys for being here. And one day, and that day will come, when you need to buy or sell a house. And when that day comes, you're going to call the godfather of Northern New Jersey real estate, Vito Cantuzzi. Thank you, everybody.